Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to the YoVideogames podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to all our generous patrons who've kept us alive for 316 episodes.
316. Yeah, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogamespodcast. Dude of the week is Fereliper.
Thank you, Fereliper. Long time dude, I believe.
Sort of forever. I have no idea how they've never been Dude of the Week, honestly. It's a flaw in the system, which is, I know I've said this before.
A glitch in the Matrix, if we want to be topical.
Yeah, which I have not watched yet, and I've heard mixed. I've heard mixed things.
You know what's funny is all four of us all said we liked it. We all liked it. And I feel Kenny liked it, but he's probably like he liked it the least. And this is not really a spoiler. This is ripping a Band-Aid off. It's not an action movie. It's a fucking romance movie. It is a sci-fi romance. It's definitely. I mean, okay. Remember, like how we were saying, like the author of Cloud Atlas was part of the script writing process. Yeah.
Oh, then I'm gonna like it. Yeah.
It is. Max's biggest disappointment is that it doesn't have that sort of like techno cool flippy dippy, not personality, but like feels. Doesn't have that identity of a Matrix film, because it doesn't. It's a deconstruction of Hollywood and the game industry. Huge deconstruction of the game industry, which I fucking loved.
Well, okay, because everything that I had seen on it, like people being like, it's not a Matrix film, and I was like,
not, but it is. It is. It's a very, you know what it is? It's like it's very auteur in a way. It's like this is a film where the director's mark is across the whole thing. Like this is a personal film by the director, and how the director feels about, how she feels about everything. Like this is not like I'm going to try to one up my actions, because like the honest truth is that and Max pointed that out, it was kind of funny. They didn't get the choreographer or stunt coordinator from the original films back, and the editing and choreography and the fighting sucks in this movie. It's there, but it sucks. And what Max told me, which I didn't know, was it's because they have the John Wick choreographer, and he actually got a speaking role in the film. I didn't realize it was him. He got a small speaking role in the film, because he was doing the action for this film, and the action sucks.
Does it really? But the action in John Wick, or at least the first one, is really good.
Yeah, which is kind of surprising, because I'm like, yeah, this sucks though. And my only real main kind of criticism is like, I'm actually 100% fine with them not trying to do another, action special. Because if action set pieces and special effects technology is what you associate with the Matrix, you're not going to get it. This is like the most personal. It's also it's definitely the best acted Matrix film though. It's kind of like, it's almost shocking in a way, because like as cool and fun as the original movie is, like Keanu's acting it's okay. In the original movies, it's okay.
I would definitely argue he has gotten a lot better at just straight up acting.
I feel like Carrie-Anne Moss and Keanu Reeves are just much better actors in this film. Much better. It's such a personal, like character-driven story rather than a spectacle plot-driven story.
Yeah, you had me at it's a lot like Cloud Atlas. I mean, if it's the same writer, I'm gonna like it.
It's not as good as Cloud Atlas.
Nothing is.
I'm going to tell you that right now. It's not really close to as good as Cloud Atlas, but like it definitely feels like it came from that kind of writing mentality.
Cloud Atlas was a movie that I don't have any idea how they got it made.
It's an independent film, technically.
Yeah, and it's not marketable at all. Even though it has huge names and shit, like I have no idea how they got it made. And it was in theaters, and no one I knew had seen it except one guy who was my writing partner in college.
Oh.
And he was like, oh, it's fantastic. But like, I hadn't known anybody that had seen it in theaters. And then I decided to rent it. Yeah, well, yeah, you saw it. I decided to rent it, watched it, and then went and saw it in theaters because it was still playing in like one theater. I think it was still in Winnetka like months later. And the biggest sign that a movie didn't get support is that theaters carry it now. A lot of people think like, oh, nowadays if a movie's doing really, really well, it stays in the theater a long time. That's how it used to be. But now if a movie's lingering, it's because it's cheaper to leave it in theaters than it is to try and like pump it out on DVD. So they'll just
some movies used to last a whole year in theaters. I'm not even kidding. Jurassic Park, Titanic, they lasted a whole year in theaters on there.
Yeah, didn't Jaws go back to theaters like 3 times?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I know Disney tried to they re-put Endgame in theaters at the end of its theatrical run. They wanted to like get over this little hump and like go see it one last time. And so they could get over this little hump to beat Avatar. To beat Avatar, so they could do it and say it. And then Avatar did a re-release in China, and whoop, there goes that. China loves Avatar, by the way. So
yeah, not surprising.
So Avatar is once again the biggest box office film of all time, not adjusted.
Really?
And it's really heartbreaking when you adjust for inflation because it's still fucking Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, but so people try to act like that's because Gone with the Wind is such a good movie, but it's actually just because it was the first huge movie.
Yeah, it's really a product.
It was
time.
It was competing with like a train driving at you. Like it was competing with dime movies. Like it's, I mean, you look at the competition that year and no. But before we go too much further, we should talk about our sponsor. As many of you know, we made jokes, but probably 100 times over the course of our podcast about the only sponsor we'd ever take. And as we go into the new year, we're very thankful for our sponsor, Manscaped. And they sent us some stuff to try, and we've now tried, I think, most of their products.
Mm-hmm.
But the big product, the one that like is their
reminds me, I have a belated Christmas gift to give for Manscaped, because I know someone who uses lip balm a lot, and I would like to give him some Manscaped lip balm to try out as a gift. There's going to be a belated gift. I'm a dummy and I forgot to pack it with the other gifts. So
who's this guy kissing so much? He's using so much lip balm, huh?
The one, the only Steve.
Steve. Oh, does he use lip balm? Yeah, you know what? Actually, that tracks.
Big fan of it, and since Manscaped's been good to us, and you know, their products have worked, so I'm like, I'm gonna give him lip balm, because you know, you want the sweetest smelling lips when you're circling the outer rim, you know, in your Star Wars fantasies.
Well, I mean, also though, when you're so salty, you got to keep those lips fresh.
That's right. Because that'll dry you out. You gotta keep them fresh and moisturized.
You know what you should do? You should give him one of the ball wipes with it. You know, get him at both ends, and just get his reaction.
Both ends. Which is the nice thing. A lot of people probably don't know about Manscaped. Everyone knows that they have the lawnmower, but what many people may not know is that they have body wash, shampoo, and lip balm. So
they do, and I've used I actually have the shampoo here.
So again, both ends,
it's fancy.
Mouth and rear, you can definitely keep yourself covered, especially, you know, if you've had some of grandma's cooking, you know, and then that's gonna hit you hard in the end. So, you know, you may need more than just, you know, a simple sheet of, you know, 2-ply. You might need something to like freshen up down there as well, which is why they have ball wipes. Because that stuff can, you know, if anything sort of like creeps around the, you know, the rain gutter, you know.
It's my favorite product by them is still the cream, the anti-chafe cream. I mean, like, if you're going running, this stuff, one, is magnificent because you're not going to be able to smell, your balls are not going to smell fucking awful at the end of your run, especially if it's like a hot day.
If at the end of a run and then you go to take, like, especially if you're like in a park and you go to like sit down on a curb, so like you're really low to the ground.
Yeah, it's just wafting.
And, you know, and you
oh my God.
Up, just roof, and like you get like that that nasty waft from your crotch, and it's
Nope.
just like, oh.
No, ball cream's changed my it's changed my life, the ball deodorant. That, and also you don't get like thigh rub. I'm not saying I
Hey
know
man,
other men.
I'm a cosplayer. I know all about it.
Thigh rub is
And
fucked up.
do you know? Like, if I could go back in time, get a DeLorean, I'd like pop back and be like, Matt, I'm from the future. Yeah, I'm sorry you look like this, but here, let me save your thighs and hand them some ball wipes
And then
or some cream.
you would rub down your older self's thighs, right? Like you'd do it for you.
No.
Why? It's
I
why?
would just be like,
It's not intimate. It's
because I
you.
don't need to, because I'm me now. Now I know.
You
Now I
wouldn't.
know about Manscaped. So in the past, I would go back and give him the anti-chafing cream in the past, because I'm already set now. I don't need him now. I need to save my younger self.
Look me in the eye and say, if you went in the back in time and it wasn't like, a paradox, you wouldn't give yourself a hand job?
Not with the way I currently look. No.
Come on now. Look, I'm not saying you got to put it in your mouth. I'm just saying you wouldn't give yourself a hand job?
Maybe because
third party masturbation. Are you kidding me?
Possibly because it's so well trimmed now that it isn't this really nasty, reeky, hairy, dreaded, what is it called in Princess Bride? I just watched it, the fire swamp. Now that it no longer looks like the dreaded fire swamp, I might even take them up on and be like, you know what? You definitely grew out, but damn, you've got some well-maintained balls.
I wonder
and tree.
I wonder if it's like a part of the narcissism test. If you're like, if you went back in time, would you give yourself a Dutch rudder? That's how they spot. You're like, yeah, this guy's a narcissist. He'd give himself a Dutch rudder.
What's funny is it's like when you think about that, like it's gross for me to think about myself, but then like you put think of someone really hot, like a hot, like a hot older man or a hot older woman, version of themselves, like you know what? I'm not even going to
like
say
if you were a silver fox,
even if they're celebrities. I'm just not going to say any names. But think of a hot celebrity who's a little older now, going back in time and then meeting themselves. Would you want to see them make out with their younger self? I'm like, yes.
No, you got to name a celebrity. No, do it. Do it. I mean, you think Kate Blanchett's going to see this?
Or Jennifer Connelly?
Jennifer Connelly looks the same. It'd be like CGI.
It'd be like CGI.
She hasn't aged a day. I mean, Jennifer Connelly's going to see this and be like, those fucking perverts.
Those fucking perverts. The worst would be, hey, at least I didn't make a Jennifer Connelly joke about her going back in time to go ass to ass.
Ass to ass. Not in a million years. But did I picture it? I did.
What, you've never seen Requiem for a Dream?
I just... Anyway, if you're interested in getting...
ass to ass.
If you're interested in buying some of Manscaped's wonderful products so that you too can think about giving your past self a Dutch rudder.
Yeah, you're real into this idea. Like,
I'm just saying,
there's a big narcissist streak running through you.
Maybe, yeah. I'm just saying for the experience. How many people are going to get to say that?
How many people want that experience? Besides Trump.
Number one, how dare you? Number two, how many people are going to go into the past, run into themselves, find out there's not a paradox, and then not give each other a celebratory hand job?
Well, I'd be like, I'll do the hand job, but give me lotto numbers.
That's also... You would blackmail yourself into giving you a hand job.
Hell yes. If you had the ability to go back in time, give me some fucking lotto numbers.
Yeah, but I feel like you could probably just ask yourself. You don't have to attach a hand job to it. But you know what? Honestly, good on you. Fair's fair.
Gotta think out for your future interests, man.
That's how they afford to travel backwards.
Speaking of thinking about your future interests, make sure the future of your nuts are in good hands. So you can go to manscaped.com and get 20% off with the code YoVG, all caps.
All caps.
And yeah, you get free shipping worldwide.
And that's on any of their
that.
products. So you can get the performance package, all that stuff.
Good old,
Do
good
it.
DOP kit and everything. So
yeah, the DOP kit's kind of actually, you know what one of my favorite things out of the performance package is the boxers. They're super
good
nice.
boxers.
I'll be honest. I'm a little wary of wearing like a company's name on my boxers, you know. But I'm married now, so she has to love me, even if pull down that says Manscaped on there.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's like it's like a hey baby, check it out. It's like a good it's like you know, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow here. It's Manscaped. Boom.
Fair.
It's not like it says untrimmed, you know, like.
Yeah, that is totally fair. But segue, our top 10 games of the year. Now, I don't want to put a number on it. Because I don't think I've played 10 games this year. I feel like this is the first year
fair.
where
go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, like, this is the first year where like I was working enough where I could afford every single game, you know, but I was also working so much that I couldn't play every single game on it. So I have this.
You could afford them, but you couldn't play them. There's a conundrum. You either are not working enough so you can play a lot of games, or you're working too much so you can't play. You can afford it, but you can't play it. So
yeah, well, I mean, you know, 2018, 2019, you know, you're skating by, you know, everything's fine, but then like 2020 happens and work dries up and you're just sitting around, you know, thinking about scenarios where you would feasibly give yourself a Dutch rudder. And, you know, then
as you are to do. So
well, look, when you got time on your hands.
And you know, and here's the thing. I've been saying this. I've been saying it for weeks now. I've been saying it at Max's. I've been saying it. This was an anime filler arc year. I don't think this was. I'm not going to say this was a bad year for video games, because there were good video games that came out this year. Like every year, there's good video games that come out every year.
There's a ton of games that I want to play.
Except maybe like 83 or 80, 84 in America. That is. But
well, most of us.
There's always
There's
always good games that come out every year. Like let's. I'm not saying this year sucked for video games. That's too broad and general of a statement. But it was an anime filler arc year, and it was. And Phil Spencer tried to warn us all of this and said, you know, you're going to see the effects of COVID way more in 21 than you did in 20, because the games coming out in 2020 were nearly complete when the pandemic hit. But it's the games that were mid development, you know, or 3/4 development that got hit real hard. So you're going to feel those effects a lot more in 21 than you did in 2020. And it's true. I think it's 100% true. And it's funny because Phil says that even though he had Forza Horizon 5 and fucking Halo come out this year. But it's true.
Look, hey, thank God the pandemic's over now, right?
I mean, other than Metroid, like this was kind of a shit year for Nintendo first party. People will argue that, but like, okay, like just running down the list, you got a port of Mario 3D World with Bowser's Fury, which was nice. But it wasn't like mind blowing. It was a 4-hour little like experiment added onto an old ass Wii U game. You got Miitopia ported to Switch. You got the Famicom Detective Club, yay, kind of remade visual novels. You got Mario Golf Super Rush. You got
Mario Golf's good time.
It's good time, but like you know what I'm saying here, like Skyward Sword HD, and then WarioWare, and then you know, Mario Party All Stars, and the Metroid. Like it was not a big banner year for Nintendo. It was multiple ports, remakes, remasters, and then like the new games were like Mario Golf, which launched obviously way before it was ready to be done, and WarioWare, which like it's nice, but like at the end of the day, WarioWare is like playing a greatest hits of Newgrounds Flash games.
Oof.
So, you know,
although the greatest hits of those games,
you know, Metroid is basically like that statue of Atlas, you know, carrying the world on its back, you know. So, Sony had a good year, I think, for the most part, because you know they had Returnal, Ratchet and Clank, and they had Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, Death Stranding Director's Cut, for what it's worth.
Yeah, and they sold out of all their PS5s constantly.
Sold every
To
PS5
real
they
people,
had.
definitely.
Yeah, totally. So Sony had a pretty decent year overall, and then like going into the third parties, it's hit or miss. Some did better than others, but yeah, just when I say it's an anime filler arc year, I'm comparing it to say 2017, which was one of the biggest fucking years for video games.
Hard
This
one
was
to
just
beat.
Yeah, this was just sort of like a filler arc year. Like, had some good stuff. Probably not a lot of stuff you're going to remember for the rest of your life. I'm sure that's different for some people. For some people, I think Returnal will be like one of their goats forever kind of thing, and that's fair. So yeah, I don't know. I personally feel this 2021 reminded me a lot of 2016, but I feel 2016 at least had Doom, which to me was like the one that stood head and shoulders above every other game. I don't feel like I know we're kind of like for whatever, fuck numbers, but for me personally, of the games that I played, and I didn't play all the big games this year, but of the games I played, I didn't feel like there were really very many 9 out of 10s, let alone 9.5 or 10 out of 10s. I feel like this was mostly a year of a lot of solid 8.5s.
So how much of that do you think is down to just like our age? Because I was thinking about this the other day, where it's like there being like a banner year hits at sort of the right time. You know what I mean?
2017, I don't feel was that long ago. It is one
No,
of the best
but
years ever for video gaming.
yeah, but at the same time, like in terms of like remembering a game for the rest of your life, like a game that's really gonna hit, is that more about the time it hits you than the game itself?
It's absolutely yes for a lot of games. That is true. That's usually where okay, like so there are some standout classics. I feel there are games that's like doesn't matter who you are, like you play this game whenever, and it's always going to hit hard, and it's always going to be like that classic of a game. And then there's a lot of games that are you hear about them and you're like, what the fuck? What? Like it wasn't necessarily the highest rated thing when it came out, and for a large chunk of its history, no one really thought fondly of it. But then all of a sudden, suddenly when that game hits a certain 10-year mark or whatever, when the 10-year-olds who played it at 10 hit 20, now it's revered as nostalgic. I'm talking about Sonic fans, and Kingdom Hearts fans. So it's like these games are not really they weren't really that good when they came out. They've definitely aged poorly in a lot of respects, but you hit a lot of people like, God, this game was my life. I love this game. Like, how old were you when you first played it? I was 12. Well, there you go. So,
I was 12 and there was a summer
there you
all
go.
I did was Sonic.
I think we can all admit, like, there's games we played when we were 10, 12 years old or whatever that we revere that probably aren't really that great in the grand scheme of things. Even if they are good, they're maybe not the greatest thing ever.
Look, man, for a long time, I genuinely liked Blasto. So, yeah. It had Phil Hartman. I'm not going to apologize.
Exactly my point. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like this year was,
Well, but a real example of that is probably like Conker's Bad Fur Day, which I still to this day love, but like I replayed it and it is one of the most frustratingly terrible controlled games ever. Like the controls for that game are fucking awful. And like there are certain parts of that game that genuinely
I don't know if it
enrage
controls
me.
that bad, but I remember playing it and being like, I remember when it first came out on N64, I was like, this definitely controls worse than like Banjo and Donkey Kong. Like
it controls really bad, and the port of it to Xbox, actually, there's like a major input delay.
Yeah.
So it's actually worse. You can get used to it on N64, but because of the input delay, it's actually worse on Xbox. But yeah, no, it does not control. I still love the game, and the game's still great and totally worth playing through the bad controls. But it's bad. It's got bad controls. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just sort of like realizing, it's kind of one of those don't meet your heroes kind of moments.
I'm an adult now, and I'm killing everything I love.
So I'm gonna rapid fire through about 6 or so of these before we kind of get to like a top, top 5, top 4, whatever.
Do it.
But yeah, number 10, if I was to make a list, and this list is not a lot of thoughts put on this list. I kind of like just threw this list up before we went live. The only real thought I have is number 1, maybe the top 3. But like, yeah.
And you enjoyed playing all of these. They were all good.
I enjoyed playing all of these. These are all good, but whatever. Like, don't get too hung up on the rankings. Number 10 was Kenna. Fun game. It was a first time game from the studio Ember Labs, and I enjoyed it. It definitely had some rookie mistakes in game design. Some of the game design was made because they thought they were being clever, but you were really just being annoying. But it's still good. It's still a good time. It's a very pretty game. It's very much like, it feels like a remake of a PS2 era game. It's got like how Crash Bandicoot got that big beautiful remake, but at the under the hood, it's still Crash Bandicoot 1 and 2 and 3. Kind of has that weird feeling where like this feels like a game from the PS2 era, just with really good graphics.
Someone called it a tech demo. And I don't know if that's fair. Like, I saw comments saying like, "Oh, it's more of like a tech demo for a full game."
I mean, okay, it's not super long, but it's still like a good 10, 15 hours. So I don't really know if I buy that. I think I think the length is perfectly fine. I don't buy like, the short length or anything like that. I think it works just fine as far as like the length and scope of the game. It just has some maybe someone with more time and experience under their belt would have like called out some of the design decisions and been like, that's more annoying than it is innovative. It's being clever is not necessarily always good. Like, sometimes there's a reason things are similar because they work. Because trying to go off the beaten path is usually sometimes ends up with a worse design or worse playing. But whatever, it's minor. It's still good. It's still a good fun time. It's very much a PS2 action adventure game with beautiful graphics. It didn't blow my dick off, but it's still a good time. The other one, number 9 for me, is Returnal, and probably going to be a lot higher for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm surprised that's not higher for you, actually.
Well, I played it at launch, and one of the biggest complaints has been patched in, sort of like haphazardly patched in with a save state. And at the time, they kind of tried to like play it off as like, oh, it's not how the game's designed, that'll break it, whatever. My big problem with Returnal is that, okay, it plays beautifully, it looks beautiful, it plays beautiful. The boss designs are incredible. But the thing I'm not really too hot on Returnal is that it's a roguelike that wants you to do everything. Like, it wants you to go to every room, fight every boss, no skipping. And it's a big 3D version of it. And it wants you to do that on every run. It's a game that has no fucking concern for your time. And when it came out, a run is going to take 3 to 5 hours. It's meant to. It's meant to be one run is 3 to 5 hours. Now, a run in Hades, if you're really good, is like 10 minutes. If, standard is like a half hour. It's a game that wants you to spend 10 to 30 minutes on a run. Hades wants you to spend 3 to 5 hours on a run because it wants you.
Returnal, you mean?
Yeah, Returnal. Yeah. I'm sorry. It wants you to explore every single room, nook, cranny, fight every boss. The bosses are not pushovers either. So it's a game that I'm like, okay, this game really doesn't respect my time at all. And there was no way to when you start getting into like, the third, fourth biome boss, right? Here's where it becomes a problem. Now, when you fight a boss, you don't know what it's going to do. You don't know what its attacks are. You have to learn it. So you're going to die. But getting back to that boss can take an hour, 2 hours, just to get back there, just to hopefully learn something before you die again.
Dark Souls, sometimes.
Yeah, and then if you want to try to rush to the boss and skip things, then you're going to be fighting the boss way underpowered, and you're going to die harder and faster, and it's going to be a little bit of a hard chunk to learn. So, and at the time there was no save stating whatsoever. Like, if if you stop playing the game, you lose your run kind of thing. Like you have to sit, it's like an old NES. Like you have to sit your ass in front of it and beat it in one go. They later patched in a sort of save state, but as good as Returnal is, and as much as I like everything about it, especially the controls and the feel of it, it doesn't respect your time, and that's why I can't really say it's any higher. That's nice if it's like, it's great for, say, a streamer who's like, I'm going to stream for 3 to 4 hours and I'm going to do a Returnal run, right? We're going to do Returnal runs. That's kind of fine, cool, whatever. But it's a game that does no respect for your fucking time. As gorgeous as it is, as good playing as it is.
Can be rough in this day and age.
That's where I kind of have a little bit of issue with Returnal, where Hades, I feel, gloriously sidestepped that, because Hades is all about, well, once you learn the systems and mechanics of the game, this takes 10 minutes. And it's not like there's not a lot to do in Hades. It's actually full of fucking dialogue, an insane amount of dialogue that's voiced. And it's interesting, and it's 2D, but it looks good. Well, it's 2D, 3D. It's isometric 3D, I guess. I don't know. I feel like Returnal's good. It's, even borderline great, but I feel that Hades is a game that respected your time way more, even though it's in kind of the same genre. So it's like Hades is just much better than Returnal but Returnal's still really good. But when I see Hades winning Game of the Year, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Returnal to me is like, I don't know if I could agree with the Game of the Year for Returnal, for a game that's this disingenuous or has this little regard for anyone's personal life. But still good, but it's a commitment.
And you're trying to tell me that you're afraid of... Are you breaking up with me?
Yes. Well, breaking up with Returnal.
That's rough.
I'm breaking the cycle. Cue Linkin Park. my number 8 is Mario Golf Super Rush. Now, obviously,
Always
this game is, not going to be on a lot of people's lists because it's Mario Golf, and it's not even really the best Mario Golf. They did put a lot of free DLC. Like, they did basically update the game for free over the course of the year, and by the end of the year, it feels like a finished, complete game, which makes me think they really should have just held off on it. But obviously Nintendo wanted something in June, for the summer months. And I still had fun with it, even when it was like basically half done. And they didn't charge you to pay for the finished product at all. So that's nice. It's almost like Nintendo knew this game's not done, so all the DLC for the rest of the year is going to be free. But it's still a good time. There's not a lot to say on it other than like, hey, it's Mario Golf. It's good. There's a lot of little ways it could have been better. The final course, I feel, was a letdown a bit, whatever. And my God, does it look bad graphically? Like, it is. Some of the courses more than the others. Like, some of the courses look like they just straight up ripped this out of Breath of the Wild for some reason, even though it's Mario Golf. And then some of the courses are like, you didn't even fucking try. Like the Bowser's level course, I'm like, this it's so low res. It's so fucking like they didn't give a shit. Like in a golf game, the camera zooms in way in, on a golf ball.
Yeah.
So when you have these like 480p or less resolution textures covering the whole fucking stretch of the fairway, it's like, come on.
Were you playing handheld or were you on the big TV? Like, were you playing?
I was on monitor, and it's just kind of like, it doesn't matter, man. Like, this would look bad on handheld even. The Switch can definitely do better than this game. Like, you can go her Switch is old all you want, but like, this is far beneath what the Switch is capable of. And kind of one of the things I learned about this game from someone, and I don't know how true it is, but it sounds true, is that Camelot only has around 45 employees total. So it's a fucking small ass developer. They don't really have any means to make a good looking video game in 3D anymore. So yeah, but you know what? It's still fun. The online works. The online's fun. The modes, there's now. There's a lot of good modes, good fun modes. I think it was, worth the time. I actually got a lot of enjoyment playing this with, some of our dudes who listened and, and hang out in our streams. I had a good time. At the end of the day, it's like, is it a great game? Not really, but you know what? Had a great time playing it with friends. So what really more can you ask for?
I mean, those are the things that matter to me. I don't need a game to be like the absolute mind-blowing game of the year. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I just want a good time.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to have a fun time with friends, and you don't really care if it's the best thing you ever played.
Yeah, I feel like
Or have,
two of the games on my list are that. And
yeah.
actually they're very similar styles of game. Actually, and then one of the games that I'm really looking forward to that I haven't got to play yet, and we were talking about it, is like GTFO.
I'm actually, yeah, I actually saw that game awards, and I'm like, I want to play this. I actually want to play this, even
Yeah,
though it's been out, it's been in early access. Like, um, I'm actually really interested in checking it out. So,
yeah,
yeah.
it's on Steam sale. So
Hmm.
it's on sale. I think it's like 10 or so bucks off, but yeah, I got it and I've been wanting to play it and I just haven't got to play it. I feel like it's like my games that I haven't got to play, Returnal's on there, Deathloop's on there, Sable's on there. Like there's just a bunch of games that I own that I bought,
Hmm.
but like I just haven't got to sit down and play it and it's fucking
Yeah.
the worst. But um the I'm sure this is going to be on your list at some point. Well, maybe not. Alien Fireteam is the game that comes to mind where I'm like, it's not the most amazing game ever.
Yeah, I really feel like I could have put that anywhere within these games I'm listing right now. And it's like, yeah, I had a fun
It,
time with that game. I enjoyed it. It's
I had
not
a great
great, but I
time.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, I had a great
Mm.
time. I played the shit out of it. I don't know about replayability. A lot of people seem to think that it's replayable. I haven't felt the need to replay it again yet.
Yeah, neither am
Um,
I went back like once with
yeah,
a couple friends, and I still enjoyed it. And it's like, this is a good, this is
yeah.
it's a small, short, solid, good time. And strangely, one of the best Alien games and one of the best 3D Aliens
It might
games.
be the best Alien game they've made so
Yeah, well, I
far.
mean, you got Isolation, which is a little more like
Isolation's
meaty.
cool.
And then you got
Yeah.
Aliens Fire Team Elite, and it's like these are like the best 3D Alien. It's almost sad in a way how strong an IP Aliens could be, and it's like this little kind of like upstart developer, their little maiden voyage game that's
Because
not
they
very big or
cared.
not very long, but it's like, yeah, they wanted to make a
Yeah, they cared.
really cool co-op Aliens third person shooter. Great. I probably should have put it on my list. Fuck it. I would say, remove Returnal, put Aliens Fireteam Elite in there. I
Ooh,
knew I was forgetting something just
yeah.
because at least with that game, it's like I beat it more than once, and it's like I enjoyed going back to it. So it's like I think I enjoyed. I honestly, honest to God, I think I enjoyed Aliens Fireteam Elite more than a Returnal. Although I think Returnal is probably a better quality game overall. It's a Sony first party game, of course, but like
Yeah, hard to compete
it's
with that.
on the other hand, though, it's like, yeah, I think I liked Alien. I think I liked playing Aliens more. Well, that's hard to say. It's like I really did really enjoy playing Returnal when I was like, say, like the first or second boss, and I was learning the boss and their patterns. But then
And co-op
once
boosts everything.
it does, Returnal would be great co-op.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Then
Just
two of you would have to play for 5 hours straight.
that's true.
Yay!
That's true. So yeah, that was a good one. Number 7 on my list is No More Heroes 3,
I haven't
which
played that yet either.
a lot of fell by a lot of people's wayside. It's still got like the rough edges where like it's funny because they did something really really smart, which was when you're driving around town, like it is like this horrifically unoptimized. It runs terribly, but once you load into a battle, it loads into a separate battle screen or a battle arena or like a racing arena or whatever it is you're doing, and then it's like a smooth 60. So they basically segmented all the important gameplay segments and boss battles into these smooth running battles, and then just driving around the town is this horrifically unoptimized piece of shit 15 frames a second thing. um
So it's like
so
Grand Theft Auto 3.
yeah, or worse. But like, hey, you don't really do anything in the overworld except drive to your next location. So well,
Yeah,
it's
if you got to pick one thing to look like shit, I guess that's the one.
yeah, pick the unimportant shit to run like shit. So it's still really good. It's the writing is as sharp and fucking bonkers as ever. Uh I feel like it really slipped through a lot of people's radars for whatever reason, and it's like it's solid. It's definitely up there. It might be one of, if not the best of the No More Heroes games. Like it is a great, if it is the last, say if it's the last No More Heroes game, it is a fantastic send off.
Well, I
Other
didn't
than
see any advertisement for it.
yeah, because it came from Marvelous Seed, so it's like
There's just no money behind it, advertising wise, and you're just
yeah,
not going to hear anything about it.
not
Yeah.
really. And Marvelous gets real pissy about people uploading footage. They're big fans of the the copyright claim. So you're kind of seeing the effects of what happens when you have an old ass dinosaur style company that doesn't understand the point of streamers and YouTubers and content creators making content for your product. They think it's like, oh, you're stealing it, you're ruining it, you're spoiling it. People aren't going to buy the game if they just watch you play through the whole thing. It's like, well, congrats, you played yourself.
Yeah, so nobody heard about it.
And it's still good. And it's really good. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great time.
How long is it? It's a short
man,
game.
it's maybe like 10 hours or so, like ish. It's well done. There's a couple.
We're getting old though, because 10 hours sounds great.
Yeah,
like that's the first sign you're getting old.
Well, shit, dude. Like most of all NES and Super NES games were way less than 10 hours.
Yeah, but like I used to crave like we've talked about it before, the 70-hour plus RPG.
Sure. Hey, I still do, but it's got to be good. The unfortunate thing is, most of the time, they're not that good. Most games aren't good enough to warrant 70 hours. It used to be like, it's 70 hours, therefore it's good. Now it's like, it needs to be good if it's going to be that long, because I don't have the interest or patience for a subpar 70-hour experience. So you say age, I say refine.
Fair.
But yeah, it's a little sad that it didn't get more whatever press or notoriety than it did. But I think No More Heroes 3 is a really overlooked gem. It's the big hidden gem of the year. But again, yeah, really rough driving around, and some of the boss battles are kind of dumb. Some of the mechanics don't. Not every clever mechanic pays off, but enough of them do to not make you remember it too. The bad ones too much. So I like it. Number 6 was Guilty Gear Strive, which is an all-around banger of a game. They got rollback netcode, so you can actually play it online, but the lobby system is fucking stupid.
Oh, so.
And it's this weird little 2D side-scrolling, like you look like almost like Habbo Hotel looking things, where like you have this 10-story hotel, and the floors are like your skill level, and you can't advance to another floor until you've beaten enough opponents at the floor you're on or whatever. But like getting the connection, because you're like this little 2D avatar walking around, and you have to go up to like a console and press X to engage the console, and then someone has to go to the other side of the console and press X to engage you, and then it'll sync you up so you can actually fight a real battle. And it fucking sucks.
I mean, that's a really cool idea in theory, though. That's kind of just a really fun idea that did not work out in real life.
And Arc System's been doing this for years in all their games. It used to be like it used to be overhead, like 3D, little like chibi 3D things, and now they're doing this 2D thing, and
so it's their shtick.
Their shtick, lobby system, and just whatever. Like you sacrificed efficiency for being clever, and kind of a running theme. But like just having a normal fucking like just put me in a just find me a room, just have a list, just have a basic ass fucking, here's my lobby, it's my name, people come in and then we play, and that's it. Can't do that. So that's like the big Achilles heel for me on a Guilty Gear Strive was sort of the frustration of getting a match started. Once it was going, it was great, but like getting a match to connect in the lobbies kind of fucking sucked. So that's why Guilty Gear is a little lower on the list than maybe it should be. But yeah, fuck it, like that lobby system sucks, and it made me not want to go back, and that's why I stopped playing it. So Sorry, once you fixed the most important part of online gameplay, but now you fucked up just connecting. So
just getting in. Yeah.
now just getting in's a problem. Once you're in, it's great, but just getting in's an issue. So you know what? Fuck it. I'm not playing it anymore. I don't care. I'm over it. But still, otherwise, quality ass game. And then my fifth is kind of a surprise one, and that's Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I was when you mentioned that earlier when we were just kind of talking about this idea, I was kind of like, Ratchet and Clank doesn't seem like something that you would preach the good word of.
Totally solid experience. Solid quality experience. A couple little nitpicky things here or there, but otherwise a totally solid quality experience start to finish.
Did you play the other ones? The old ones?
No.
Yeah, neither did I.
I played them at E3. Like I played the whatever little demo they had. But totally quality experience start to finish for the most part. Like, only a couple things, nitpicky. I really enjoyed the game, honestly. Like, I feel some of the planets were way cooler than the others. It's kind of like one of its. If there's any like major problem, is that like not everywhere you go is neat. Not everywhere you go is as fun as say this area. Like this area is like this cool sort of like quasi open area where you get to like boost around on rocket skates, and it's a little more open ended, and that's pretty fun. And then this level is just a very very linear, almost Crash Bandicoot levels of linearity, going from A to B. And it's like, that's fine, but I wish it was this, so.
How many
great
planets
game.
does it have?
I don't even fucking remember. It's like
a lot.
It's 10 or less. Probably 10 or less. Probably around 10 or 11. It's not a lot. It's not a ton. But it's around 10-ish. About the time Sean Connery shows up to Wimbledon. 10-ish. Levels. That flew right over your head, didn't it?
It did. I did not fucking get that at all.
Just think about it. What time does Sean Connery show up to Wimbledon? 10-ish.
Oh, god damn it. No, it's worse now.
He shows up around 10-ish to watch some tennis.
God damn it. Just go to your next game. That's upsetting. That was an upsetting joke. All of us are worse for hearing that.
It's a great joke, and fuck you.
God damn it. Well, that's the best Sean Connery you've ever done. It's a great joke, and fuck you.
If you're a woman, Andrew, I'd slap you.
God damn it.
And no amount of Barbara Walters interviews will get me to change my mind.
Those interviews are a masterclass in everything that's wrong with our parents' generation. Not even our parents' generation. It'd be our grandparents' generation. Like everything, you're like, man, the silent generation caused so many problems. I don't understand how. Just watch that interview, and you're just like, God damn. Yeah.
I made a really dark joke. I think it was on Max's stream last time. I don't remember what the we were playing this really shitty Matrix game, Enter the Matrix.
Yeah, we did a remake of that. Remember?
No, we did that for Path of Neo, and I actually got to play a lot of Path of Neo.
I thought you guys played Path of Neo. You played
we played both. We played both. And the first one has a hidden multiplayer mode, and you don't get to choose the characters you fight as in this multiplayer fighting game mode. And one of them is just like two normal ass, pudgy ass looking people, right? And it's just like a guy and a woman, like just some pudgy, normies, right? And then they're just beating, they're just fighting the shit out of each other. And I made some really dark joke about like, what the fuck's someone said, what the fuck's going on here? And I'm like, oh yeah, here's a Matrix recreation of your grandparents' generation. This guy beating on his wife, and I'm like, honeymooners. Hey,
oh. Okay, on that note, we're going to gloss over that. No trigger warnings in this episode.
Well, my fourth was Monster Hunter Rise, and it's funny because it came out, way back in like March. And great time. I kind of forgot about the game because I stopped playing it because I kind of did all I wanted to do with it. That's fine. It's about to come out on PC, but great game. Nothing really negative to say about it.
I played Monster Hunter for PS4. I don't remember what that one's called.
World.
I was gonna say Realm Reborn, like Final Fantasy 14.
It was, for all intents and purposes.
Kind of was. And I really liked it, but I think I just came to it too late. So everybody I was playing it with was way too far ahead. And
yeah.
So it was one of the, so I've never played it again since playing it for a while. But I actually, surprisingly, really like Monster Hunter.
Rise was
I
a
fucking
great
hate
time.
grinding though.
Yeah,
And that's all it is.
there was even some quality of life shit in Rise, which went even further beyond World. I feel, I can't remember specifics exactly, but like I feel like I grinded way less in Rise than I did in World, which maybe that's why I burned out on Rise faster, because like I burned through it quicker. But I don't give a shit. That game was great the whole time I played it. So
I would probably like it way more if there was no grinding. Like, especially if games have grinding, replayability is gone for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I feel like Rise I feel like Rise doesn't really have that anywhere close to as much as the older games or even World. Rise is a good time. Rise is a great time. But it is kind of like, it is again very dependent on having a group of friends to play with.
Yeah, that's true.
The games don't work on their own. They just don't.
That's a problem with a lot of my favorite games, is like you have to have co-op. I haven't played Halo purely for that reason. Is like I know Halo's campaign is supposed to be great.
Right, Halo might even be on my list. I haven't played it very much. I played it a little bit. Well, we played it like a whole evening with Max, and it was great. It was the most fun I've probably fucking ever had with Halo. But it's not done, and co-op's not in it yet. So I'm like, put a pin on it. I'm gonna come back to this when co-op's out, because this is fantastic. But the game's not done. It released in pieces. It's not a done game. Like, multiplayer came out first, and then the campaign came out a couple weeks after that, and then we're gonna have to wait for Forge and co-op and the rest of the game to come out next year. So it's an unfinished product.
And it can only do that because of Game Pass.
Sure.
Because it's got to be one of the biggest selling points of Game Pass is that you can get Halo Infinite.
Yeah. But at least you can sit there and say, hey, this game's great. What we have so far has been great. So cool.
Heard nothing but good stuff about it.
As long as they keep that up with the last bits of content, like Forge and co-op, cool. So I can't wait to go through Infinite next year with friends. That's going to be a fucking blast. So I don't know. Do you have a fourth?
My fourth, I know it didn't technically come out this year, is Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. Actually,
Director's Cut did come out this year, and you got to play it on a PS5, right?
Yeah, it did, but I know that the game isn't technically a 2021 game.
Sure, but you get Iki Island, and then you get lip syncing in Japanese on PS5, which I didn't get, but I play Xenoblade, so I'm used to that.
And you got mad because I didn't play it with the Japanese voice actors at first.
Wait, what? You didn't? What's wrong with you?
No, I didn't. No, I just I played it with the English. I don't know.
The English dub is good, though.
It is good.
I mean, it's made. And it's not even. Can you call it an English dub? It was made in fucking Seattle, so.
Yeah, fair. I mean, the thing is, the game is just
the actors that they face scanned and mocapped are the ones talking in their native language of English.
Yeah, it's just all around a great game, and it is probably the best or second best made game. It's probably the best made game on this list of my 4 games.
I think it's a great game.
It's an excellent game. If you are also waiting to play this game, you haven't played it yet, like, oh my God, you got to get on it.
It's got a weird thing with, when speaking of the dub sub, like lip syncing in Japanese is only on the PS5 version because it uses computational. It uses an AI program to do it, but it computes the lip sync on the fly, which the PS4 running the whole rest of the game is not capable of doing. That extra computational power, that stress on the CPU, which the PS5 can do.
That's kind of badass.
It's badass, but it also kind of sucks that they never took the time to just
Do
do it
it,
normal, do a normal like
Oh.
sync for
I
it. But
mean, you know,
whatever. Like,
I cry for
you
the
know,
people that actually read the history of what happened to Tsushima because it is not nearly this cool.
no, it's nowhere near that.
They just
I
got
mean,
fucked up and raped twice. Like they straight up like, and I'm not saying that like in a
hey,
COD
the
bullshit. I'm
real
saying they really
Tsushima
did. Yeah,
Island, the real Tsushima Island loves this game and
yeah.
has made the directors honorary ambassadors. I don't even. I wonder if that means they can get Japanese citizenship. That'd be fucking awesome because that is not easy to do.
I have a feeling that no, they would not.
No, probably not. But if it was up to the municipality or whatever that governs Tsushima Island, they totally would.
Well, it's like up until the point where you do the charge in the first part of the game, that's all true. And then everything after that is not true at all.
It's
None
a
of it's...
Well, okay, the whole thing is romanticized as fuck. But,
Yeah, no, I mean, like the Mongols just, I mean, walked over Tsushima because Japan, like the mainland didn't give a fuck. Like, and then they walked over Iki Island and then a storm
the fun thing about the game is they actually do basically straight up say that.
Yeah.
Where they're like, "Where's the mainland? How come we need to get the Shoguns? Like the Shoguns aren't helping us." And I'm like, I kind of dig that. Like, and that was in the early marketing material where it's like, where you know, Jin's like, "We got to save Tsushima," and she's like, "It's already gone." You know,
Yeah.
like there's at one point I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what happened. They kind of just steamrolled through
well,
there.
it was the largest, and maybe this is only half remembered correctly. It was the largest fleet ever up until Normandy. It was the largest. It was the largest naval invasion up until Normandy.
I don't know the scope, but I do know that the reason, and this is one inaccuracy of the game, because in the game, all the Mongol ships are basically, there's like 2 or 3 Mongol ships. They're all the same, right? There's like bigger, smaller versions of it.
Yeah.
That is not what the Mongol fleet going to Japan looked like. Most of it was just boats in Korea and China that they just
it was Chinese and Korean. I mean,
gang
most of the
pressed and
Mongol
stole,
force.
and most of the Mongol force was Chinese and Korean.
Yeah.
But it's mostly like they just took boats from the coastline of China and just said, "This is ours now, and we're going to sail to Tsushima with it."
Yoink.
So it wasn't like they had this very carefully, very produced, unique Mongol fleet of all specialty Mongol ships. No, and that's the reason they sunk in the hurricane or tsunami,
because a lot of them weren't meant to go out into deep water anyway. Yeah.
Exactly. It was very, you know, it's kind of funny because it's a lot like Dunkirk in a way, where it's like take a bunch of these fucking fishing boats, you know. Well, a different reason, but like it's the same idea. They're going across this channel, although they're going across a bigger channel that's way more, you know, crazy currents, volatile. Yes. So.
Yeah, and I mean, like the thing is the Mongols didn't hurt them that bad because again, most of them were Chinese and Korean levies, so they didn't really give a shit. Like,
yeah, it was a lot more. Well, and then like by the time the second invasion failed, most of Mongol was kind of dealing with its own shit.
Yeah.
Back home, so they didn't really care that much. Like, there's some good stuff though. I really like how the villain, especially in the beginning, is handled.
Oh yeah,
where he's just like, you know, while you did, you know, all your whatever, while you trained to, you know, to be your best samurai, you know, I studied your language, you know, I learned your villages, you know, I learned where everything is.
And that actor, so good,
yeah,
so good.
There is a great part where it's kind of fucked up, but it's kind of like, yeah, this not necessarily the Mongol invasion, but there's a really good part where I think it's Jin's father or whoever goes up to him and he just like walks up and he's just like throws like oil on him and then just lights him on fire and he's trying to make this big speech or whatever and he's like, who cares? Just a lot. That happened in a lot of battles with samurai versus other countries because they would try to do this big honorable, like, you know, grand, you know, statement speech and people just Mongols just be like, whatever, fucking kill, just light them on fire, like, didn't fucking care. So I think that.
Something that is really interesting about samurai culture in general is that the Japanese were, especially samurai, were like amazing at fighting other samurai.
Yeah.
You know, and they were obviously very good at war. Look at every war where they were the aggressors and went on the offense and stuff. They were great at it. But like samurai specifically were very good at fighting other samurai and had a real hard time when they ran up against literally anyone else because no one else was following the very specific rules that samurai
Rules of
fight war by.
engagement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, when they fought the Portuguese or the Dutch or the Americans or any of that shit, it was like, when they modernized and shit and, adjusted rules of war to modern war.
There's like small inconsistencies with the game historically speaking. Like they're using katana blades, which really weren't used. They used much longer swords.
Yeah.
Back then they didn't have the cool shorter katana blades that you get in the game. Haikus weren't invented yet.
How dare you? The haiku has been around forever. Always.
Not as long as that game.
Yeah.
So there's like a couple tiny little things that are like that someone from a haiku like museum or institution like saw them is like oh, these are fucking terrible. Like, no, these are not real haiku. Like the ones you make in the game. He's like, no, these are fun. I'm like I really like the game is getting people interested in haikus, but please come to our museum or whatever. I'm like, these are fucking awful. These haikus are not fucking not good, not good at all.
I am a poet, Matthew. How dare you? Before I go into battle, I am a poet. God damn it.
But you know what? It's a beautiful game. I did laugh at the fact that like the northern part of the map, the last area you go to, is all snowy. And I think the director of the game said, like, look, I know fucking Tsushima is a tiny island with one fucking biome.
Yeah.
Biosphere. Like, I know. Like, we just sort of kind of made Tsushima a mini proxy of all of Japan, where the top part is Hokkaido, and then we have like the more like marshland middle, and then the more like wooded, we know. But
Tsushima is all mountains, though.
Right,
it's mostly fucking mountains, so there is
mostly it's just rocky or whatever. But like it's one climate because it's a tiny island in one spot.
Yeah,
it's not because Japan's like top to bottom. Japan's way longer, of course. And it's like the director's like, I know, we know this, we know. So, but he's like, for the sake of gameplay variety, we did it this way. And I'm like, you know what? Good on him. That's where I'm like, because some people might be like, oh, this is so inaccurate. I'm like, yeah, but it's also a video game, and you can't have the whole video game look like one area, look like one spot. So good. It's a good idea.
Shadows of Mordor.
Oh.
But yeah, my other two games before we jump back into yours, we're running a little long for the New Year's episode. Is like Alien Fireteam and Back 4 Blood, which I'll just lump together. We already talked about Fireteam. Back 4 Blood is just like all the nostalgia co-op, horror shooter that I want, that I want GTFO to be, that I'm, that's what I'm expecting it to be. But Back 4 Blood was a nice surprise. I was really happy with that.
I played it and I enjoyed what I played. Haven't played enough.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's good times.
For me, it's on that. For me, it's on that. Yeah, it's good. I just haven't played enough of it. Resident Evil Village, number 3. I guess we could both talk about that because we both really liked that game.
It's my number 1. Yeah.
I don't have a lot negative to say about the game. I'm sure if I went back and thought about it, maybe there were a couple things I didn't quite like or not. I don't know. Big pros for me are the variety. You know how each area kind of is its own little separate thing. I will say the factory was too long and boring looking. And they kind of make you retread through the factory like 3 times, and not great, especially on replay.
I was gonna say it wasn't that it was too long; it was that you did it so many times.
Yeah, so it kind of has that. It kind of falls into the same trap as 7, where there's that boat segment.
Yeah,
and it's like kind of make you do the boat twice. I'm like, fuck, they do the same thing again.
I have nothing but good memories of the boat because we played the boat together and we did all that shit with the mines outside the doors.
Yeah, that actually was fun.
That was a great time.
So yeah, 8 has sort of like a similar issue there, where like the factory goes on too long, and the dollhouse maybe doesn't go on long enough, maybe. But then again, I feel the dollhouse was maybe a little perfect because short, sweet, to the point.
The dollhouse is probably the best part of the game in terms of like actually being freaky.
Yeah.
My favorite section of the game is still probably the castle, just because
Castle's great.
Castle's great.
It's almost shocking when it's over because you're like, wait, what? Like, were there still like fucking 3/4 of the game to go?
Well, yeah, I thought I was done with the fucking game. I'll be honest with you. I think we even talked about that on the pod where I was like, I don't know, I think I'm like 3/4 of the way done. You're like, how far in? I was like 6 hours, and you're like, you're nowhere fucking near. But
so yeah, like not there. The Windmill River area is okay.
I liked that.
It's very short. I feel like that big thing where you have to go up to the fortress to get the key to the factory. I'm like, we didn't need the factory. We could have just ended it right there at that big thing where you go up to the big fortress on the hill.
Yeah.
The big brick tower, and then you fight Santa Claus up there. And I'm like, honestly, that could have been the end of it for Heisenberg. The fact that they had this giant, boring ass factory. I don't know. A lot of it probably is also just I hate factory settings. I hate fucking factory settings in video games. It's
you just
so
don't
boring.
like industrials.
It's so boring. It's so plain looking. It's so shitty. And there's some really cool looking areas in the factory too. But and it's fun to fight Propeller Man, you know, and the Heisenberg fight is fantastic. And some people really hated the Chris segment. It was spoilers, whatever. But I actually really enjoyed the Call of Duty Chris segment.
Yeah, I thought that was fun as hell.
Nice change of pace. I thought that was great. The last boss is a little bullet spongy, almost for no reason other than to be bullet spongy. I'll give it that. But it's a way better last boss fight than 7, which are you just fighting a big fucking wall with a face on it.
I don't know what you're talking about. I love wall face.
Wall face. Yeah, the Evelyn fight in 7 was so fucking weak.
Wall
8's final boss, great. A little spongy, but great. So yeah, 8's a great game. It kind of fell out of a lot of people's radar and minds, you know, as the year went on.
Early in the year.
Yeah, maybe it's just sort of recency bias, but I still think it's a fantastic game. RE4 didn't have recency bias. I was just like, oh, that came out. Oh, it's game of the year. It's January 11th. It's game of the year.
Yeah, well, I mean, but RE4 is infinitely more replayable than RE Village.
That's kind of true. And RE Village does try to have some cool shit to buy and unlock after you beat the game. So it's not like it doesn't have any replayability. It totally has replayability. But the interacting with the enemies in 8 isn't as engaging as it is in 4.
Yeah.
And that's still just kind of the thing about RE4 is that there's so many different ways to approach a given scenario. In this one, it's like there's these werewolves and they kind of rush you. That's kind of it.
The werewolves, though, they were an intimidating enemy.
Good enemy.
Yeah.
Good enemy. I think it worked well. I think most of the game worked really well. Like the sisters were a little disappointing in how fucking easy it was to actually get rid of them.
Yeah.
All 3 of them. You just find the window, break the window. They freeze, shoot them dead. So again, it's like, there's this gimmick to them, but there's no experimentation, if you will. Or it's like, I'm going to try to knife run. And,
yeah.
You know, I'm going to try to knife run an El Gigante, which you can do. I won't recommend it, but you can do it. You know, like 4 just naturally kind of allows you to experiment with its weapons and bosses way more than 8 does. And that's just saying like, okay, this is why, you know, 4 is like one of the best games of all time and 8's just simply an outstanding game. Just simply great. This is simply great. And then this is like the best ever kind of thing. So.
Yeah. And I think that's fair. You know, I was expecting Village to be a rinse repeat of 4 based on the shit I was hearing.
Yeah, and it's definitely got inspiration, but it's not.
But it is its own thing.
It is its own thing.
Yeah,
it totally is. And people finally got over Big Mama D. She won the best actor award for that Game Award, so that was nice. Nice to see.
Yeah, and she tried to break the internet with that dress.
She sure did.
She tried to do it twice. She tried to break the internet digitally as her character, and then she tried to break the internet going to the Game Awards, and she almost succeeded.
I still wish we had one of those 8 foot tall like standees of her, like the life size Mama D standee.
Yeah, no, that'd be great.
that'd be great just to have in the background, you know, just big Mama D. I don't know. Great game.
Mama
definitely.
D.
It's definitely within probably the top 5 of the RE games. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably do an entire episode of the top 5 RE games where we
Yeah,
just rank
where
those. So I'm not gonna.
where they stand now. So it's up there, but it's up there. That's the point is up there.
Yeah,
I know you didn't play it, but Metroid Dread, great game, loved it.
it's on the list. It's another one. I
The
almost.
worst, honestly, the worst part of the game is that uh, it makes use of every single button and every single possible combination of buttons. And some of the speedrunners kind of hate the fact that, like, to instigate like the running charge, you have to click the stick while you're running. And I agree, kind of shitty. Um, almost makes too much use of the controller, but it's still a fantastic game. Apparently, and I didn't know this, people have told me in chat, like, apparently David Jaffe of the original God of War, he complained that the game was way too difficult. And I was like, really? It feels like the perfect Metroid difficulty to me.
Really?
Yeah, like even the last boss has like a phase of the last boss where it's real kind of like tanky, where like you can't do any cool tricks to beat it. Because almost all the bosses in the game have a trick to beat it. And here's the fucking coolest shit ever about this game. They made unique death animations for the bosses in case people's sequence broke the game. So if someone's sequence broke the game and got a weapon or an item way too early than they were supposed to story wise, they actually made unique death animations of Samus using that weapon from the sequence break to kill
No
the boss.
shit. That's cool. I love it when. No, I love it when games go to those lengths.
Yeah, because like, and I don't know if they intended the game to be sequence broken. It doesn't feel like it. It's just almost like it's Metroid. People are going to sequence break it. They're gonna find ways to glitch around or do things to get where they're not supposed to early. But you know what? Hey, if they do, let's just throw in this unique kill animation, and they did, and it's fucking awesome.
Hell yeah!
So Metroid Dread.
I fucking love it when games do that.
So yeah, Dread is a fantastic fucking time. Yeah, like that's like the tiniest nitpick I can really give the game is that, like, it almost becomes a little too much, considering not only is every button used, but there are combination things to do abilities. Sometimes you have to press combinations. It's like, wait, what the fuck was what to do? What the blah, blah, blah. And they have all these like really these bonus things like extra missile capacity or extra life tank capacity, right? To 100% the game, they made all these crazy, insane platforming challenges to get all the unnecessary stuff. And some of that shit will break your goddamn wrists. trying to get the last little tiny bits of unnecessary fluff. You kind of feel how you want about that. I enjoy the puzzle aspect of it and figuring out how to solve it. And then there's multiple ways to get this extra hard, bonus stuff if you want to. Me and Max both got one of the items where it was like all you had to do was break this one wall way over on one side, and there's a boost pad that just shoots you over to the thing you need to get. But me and Max did this whole fucking long-winded running and double jumping and using the screw attack and using all this like precise timing shit to like finagle our way into this area. And
sounds
it's like,
exactly right. Yes.
Oh no, there was this one stupid thing. All you had to do was just go over here and press this one button. It would shoot you.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I feel like that's exactly what I would do, where it's just like I'm trying to figure it out. It'd be an hour and a half of streaming and people trying to tell me what to do and me ignoring them.
So great game. Great classic 2D Metroid game. I enjoyed it way more than Fusion. It's somewhere around Zero Mission in quality. Is it better than Super Metroid? I don't know. It's smoother. It's definitely smoother, and the parry's awesome. So whatever.
Super Metroid has too much nostalgia attached to it. You're never gonna.
And I didn't even play it till I was an adult. But I don't know. It's up there. It's one of the greats. It's definitely one of the better 2D Metroid games, for sure. So yeah, when people say it's their game of the year, it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I expected it to have more people saying it's game of the year, though.
Yeah,
what did Game Awards say was the game of the year? It
Takes Two, which I didn't even play. And part of me wonders if they only gave that award just to see what Joseph Ferris would say on microphone.
Oh, the fuck the Oscars guy?
Yeah,
It's his game. Yeah.
yeah, his game won.
I mean,
So
I'm real happy for that guy. I love that guy. I have no idea what the
apparently
game is, but
apparently it's a 2D co-op platformer.
that's fun.
Yeah, and apparently it's really, really, really good. Everyone who's played it says it's fantastic. I love the way he advertises the game, where he's like, we've got this co-op game. You're going to be, working with your friend or your partner, or hopefully, someone, with you. We don't have a lot of collectibles or doodads or any of that other bullshit. Like, this is exact words he says. Like, we took all that shit out of our game. We just wanted to streamline it and make it strictly about, the cooperation and the platforming. I was like, okay. This guy is his own one-man advertising machine.
Yeah, I mean, after the whole fuck the Oscars thing, really.
Yeah, everyone was really hoping he was going to say something to Rockstar or Take-Two Interactive, like fuck Take-Two for suing me for the name. But he didn't, which I'm sure his lawyer probably got up there and said, do not fucking do anything.
His lawyer was just off to the side of the stage being like, no.
You say nothing while this lawsuit is ongoing.
Fair.
do not compromise, your case. So I think just winning is good enough, because now it's like, hey, here's this award-winning game called It Takes Two, and here comes Take-Two Interactive saying like, we own the name Take-Two, and it's like, fuck off.
I feel like I can guess your number one. I feel like
your number one was Village, right?
Yeah, my number one was Village,
and that makes a lot of sense to me, because I feel like the top three are like, if anyone tells me these top three are their game of the year, I'm like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
In a Street Fighter 3 style away. So, yeah, my number one was Nier Replicant.
Yeah, I knew it.
And I had to think about it because, it's technically a sort of a remaster. It's more remake because I avoided, there's a lot of cool like remasters and whatever that came out this year, and I didn't list them. Not Skyward Sword.
What do you mean? That was best game ever.
But I thought about it. I'm like, okay, this game took a game that was crap and made it fun to play. Like the core combat and gameplay, not the design necessarily, but the combat got this massive overhaul, and that made the
from
game
like trash
playable.
tier to
yes, it went from trash tier to pretty damn good.
Wow,
pretty damn good. Like, so they completely changed. So they had the guy who was the lead designer on Nier Automata from Platinum. He came in to be an overseer for I think it's Toy Box or Toy Logic was the developer for Replicant, and he came in to say like, okay, like, here's what you do to not make the game feel like shit. Which there's that clip of him speaking at Game Developers Conference where he's like, if pressing a button doesn't elicit an immediate response, then the player's going to get frustrated and it's not going to feel good to play. Like, I'm like, yes, the thing that should be stapled on everyone's fucking forehead. Like, when you press a button, they need to fucking react. So yeah, he was a consultant on the game to basically for this other developer to like, okay, well, which is a weird thing. I feel like in the game industry to have like, here's someone from this company. He knows what he's doing for real-time combat, and you guys need consultation on it. So he's going to come in here and tell you how to fucking make this work.
And you don't know how much his input was. He was
I don't know
credited as a contractor, as a
contributor or consultant,
yeah.
like overseer. Like Taro said, like, we needed to make it feel up to date. So he said so that players who started with Automata won't feel the game plays like shit. That's what Taro said. I was like, okay.
Leave it to that guy to be that guy and the It Takes Two guy ought to make a game together, be the most honest fucking video game on the planet.
The most honest game on the planet.
Like, God damn those guys.
So it took a game that had a lot of cool ideas and made it playable. I love, as far as okay, so now how about the actual game? Do I love that? Like, yeah, I love the ideas that they do for the actual game. I love how fucking horrifically depressing it is, because it is horrific.
Really,
like,
you like that? Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
Shocking. Well,
Who'd have
So,
thought?
like, spoilers. There's this whole thing about the desert kingdom and the wolves, and it's what makes everyone fucking bawl. And yeah, I wasn't necessarily crying, but like I wasn't. But
You cried a
to
little
me,
bit.
to
Come
me,
on.
it was what I loved about it was like plot A. You go through, and you just filled with fucking like depression and rage from the wolves attacking and causing this one horrific event to happen. And then on the second playthrough, you you still do the same thing, but then you get this whole added layer of like before you got there, what is the wolf side of it from before you got there, and then before, and what led to this attack, and why did they do this attack. And then it's like it's great because like the whole someone, I can't remember the exact quote, but someone put it best where it was like, welcome to Near, where nobody is right and everything sucks. Like,
Well, it robs you of righteous fury.
yeah, yeah, because it's like, well, everyone's doing everything they do in the game for what feels like, oh yeah, I'm 100% down for this, like fuck
Yeah.
these people, like kind of thing. And I fucking love that because the inspiration of the original Near Replicant as it is now is the revel is came from from the war in Afghanistan and 9/11 and Iraqi war and all that, where before Taro made Drakengard and said you have to be a complete psychopath to do all these waves of murders you do in a dragon Hyrule Warriors, whatever the fuck Warriors games are.
Yeah.
Samurai Warriors, whatever the fuck it's called. I don't remember. This game sucked. You have to be a complete psychopath to murder hundreds and hundreds of people like that. And then he said Nier was a response where he said, no, you don't have to be a complete psychopath to go out and murder a bunch of people. You just have to believe you're right.
Yeah.
So that is the whole fucking crux of Nier, is that like you do all this, you go through all this murderous questing because you believe you're right, because you believe there's a nobility and a righteousness in your quest. And then there really is no nobility or righteousness in your questing at all. Like there's actually one of my favorite scenes was one of the brand new segments they added for the game, where there's this this girl, this shade, because the main enemies you fight are shades, which are like these shadowy creatures. And this ship crashes on the shores of this town, and the postman goes to investigate, and he finds a girl in there, and he thinks she's too scared or too maybe hurt to move, so he kind of like brings her food, and he starts like talking to her, and he starts trying to get her to learn how to write. And then he even thinks about maybe trying to adopt this little girl, maybe give her a home kind of thing. And then it turns out that this little girl is a shade, and you end up having to fight the shade, and it turns into this big giant huge shade, and you end up killing it. And then in the midst of like this big fight, when it turns into this big giant monsters thing, like you see like the girl sees like the postman like frightened and scared and all this other shit, and he's like throwing shit at it because he thinks it's just a monster. And then like this whole thing was like, the postman tells her like, I'm gonna take you outside one day and you're gonna get to see, I'm gonna take you and show you how beautiful the ocean is. And then right before it dies, this little girl like turns around as she's burning, because the sunlight literally burns these shades' bodies, and she just like looks out and says like, I never realized how beautiful the world is. And then like she burns up and dies. And then there's this moment that I'm like, God, I fucking love this moment where the character Kaine finds a note on the ship from before the fight, and she gives it to the postman, and he looks at the note and it says thank you, like all scribbled out really terribly. And he's like, she actually was learning how to try to write to me. And he's just like, I know she was a monster, I know she ate people. And she's like, but still, like, I don't. And like he just starts crying and breaking down, because it's like it was like his kid. He's like, I know my kid's a monster, but it's still my kid, and it still tried to communicate with me, kind of thing. It's like, oh, it's so fucked up, and I loved it. Like that was actually like, because to me that hit me pretty hard, because I was like, man, I remember taking in some of the real, and when I was teaching, taking on some of the real challenge kids, and it's just like, man, you know that they're kind of like monstrous in a way. These kids are monsters, but like sometimes they still really did try. And it's like,
Well,
God, I love this game for shit like that. And then, yeah, there was this whole thing with I kind of realized how there's an amazing musical cue with the last boss fight where as you're fighting the final boss and it's like the last phase of it, he's basically just in this sort of like rage mode because he's just he's just throwing everything he can at you, and every hit you do on the last boss takes out a chunk of the instruments of the song that's playing in the background, and then you get to the last hit and it's just a music box, and then you fucking finish the deal, and it's like you're taking all the music and song out of the world, like just yeah,
goddamn.
like,
Why?
so
Right up your alley. You know what you should do? You should start reading all the Warhammer 40K shit.
yeah, like
You like you like shit where nobody's a good guy. Literally everyone in the galaxy in that is a bad guy. They're just different levels of villains. And like there's good people. There's good people all over the place, but everything's bad.
Yeah, there's good. There's good people. Like there's even the whole thing where like the two caretakers in your town turn out they're manipulating you the whole time and all this other shit, and then like you have to start fighting them, and then like you kill one of them, and the one sister just like fucking breaks down, and then like the poor Emil is just like, we have to stop this, and I love everyone loves the line where she's just like, stop, like. You think I have the luxury to stop? You cut down my sister like a goddamn animal, and you think we have the luxury to stop? No one stops. Like, and she just goes nuts. It's like, oh, it's so good. It's so fucked up.
I mean, this is painting a hell of a picture of you.
I know, right? Well, I've been saying forever. I want Taro to write the next Zelda game. God damn it! Like,
Wow. Yeah.
yes,
Let's just
yes,
scar some children. I'm in.
yes.
I mean, I'm in. Yeah.
100%. It doesn't have. I mean, it won't be as fucking gory or anything as near, but it's just like you don't have to write gore and shit and stuff to make something dark, sad, or depressing. You know,
Yeah, you can't acknowledge that Link kills hundreds of things, though.
hundreds of things. And there was that great moment in Twilight Princess where like the King Bulbos like stops and he goes like, enough, and he just throws you the key, and then he gets on his steed and he's just like, he just looks at you and says, I follow whichever side is strongest. That is all I have ever known. And then he rides off, and then like Minna goes, he actually can talk. And I'm like, what a great little moment. They should expand on shit like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, that's absolutely what I'm so disappointed with where Zelda's gone story-wise. But it's like, yeah, I want Zelda to be like this. This is what I want out of that. And a lot of people like Replicant's story more than Automata's because Replicant's very character and story world driven, and Automata's very meta.
Yeah, well, and Replicant's supposed to be much more linear, right?
Yeah,
like Automata,
is.
you got to play several times.
Oh no, you do in Replicant as well.
Oh, okay.
Kind of. It's you gotta play the back half like once or twice.
Interesting.
The second half of it or whatever. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, I generally appreciated the end and there's a lot of genre shifting. There's like a survival horror element area or moment in the game. Yeah. There's an isometric like Hades style area. There's there's shmup stuff in the game, little tiny bits of it or whatever. So I do like how it kind of like there's visual novel. There's a whole visual novel part of the game and stuff. So
it jumps around and shit.
Yeah, it jumps around and keeps things a little fresh. I like that aspect
when
of
it's done well. That sort of stuff is great.
And now you can say most of the time it's done well in Nier, which you really couldn't say before. So that's why it's my game of the year. Even if it is sort of a remaster, remake, what have you. So it's called it's the square root of pi is what all the numbers mean, because Taro likes making useless shit. As he says over and over.
I like making useless shit.
He's like, why is the number? Well, it's the square root of pi because it's not quite a remake or not. It's a little more in a remaster, and the number is really long because it's meaningless because numbers have no meaning. that's how his brain works. So, I really appreciated that. That we get a game that has crazy fucking storytelling like that. I mean, yeah,
I think it's interesting.
I don't know. It's not all sad and depressing. Like, it's kind of one of those things where I look back and I'm like, yeah, one of my favorite, my favorite game of this year, and one of my favorite style of RPGs is like it's an RPG about a male prostitute, an intersex, foul mouthed warrior queen, and a gay skeleton. Like this is your merry brigand of people. I'm like, yeah, that's who I want to go. That's the game I want to go on that party's storyline and journey, rather than four beautiful young rich men in a luxury convertible.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that especially since, we have both talked about how like games aren't, like the story in a game generally doesn't matter, which I think is less and less true as time has gone on. But it's funny that your game of the year is entirely because you love the story so much.
And it's playable.
It's playable, yeah, but
It's
the
playable. I
story
would
is
never
the
give this
reason.
game. I would never give this game of the year if it didn't have a good combat system.
Yeah, but I
Um,
mean, but the reason you're giving it game of year is because you love the story, not because you love the combat system.
I'm glad that it's mostly just because mostly because of how outside the box it thinks and how horrifically far it's willing to twist normal gaming narratives. And the fact that it is snappy. It like fighting something because there's Tales of Arise. I know that won RPG of the Year award at Game Awards for whatever reason. And I played through half that game, and the combat feels nowhere near as good in that game as it does in this game. But also the story sucks. Well, the story and characters also suck, so that doesn't help you.
we were gonna end on a positive note.
but like no, like the combat feels really good. It feels great to hit things in this game. Like you're fighting when you're in a ballroom full of people dancing, you're killing all these ghosts and then like all these orbs that are bouncing around, and it feels good to just bounce one, then you find out the orbs are unborn babies, but near. So, oh, dude, that second playthrough where you open the door and all these like balls fall out, and then like then you don't know what, you just chop them to get rid of them, and then the second playthrough where you can hear Kaine's thoughts because she can hear the Shade's words, and they're the person who's the weird little wizard guy flying above them and teleporting, attacking you, and he's yelling at you. You hear him in the first playthrough just going, and then in the second playthrough there's subtitles of it, and he's just like, stop, what are you doing, please, they're just babies, they don't know any better, please stop this. It's like,
that's
yep, this is horrific.
That's
this is near.
Fucking God, I'm a wreck. No, I'm kidding.
This is near. Like no one's right in this game.
And that is on that note, killing babies. That is our games of 2021.
They're shades. They're shades. So they're souls of babies that have been extracted and exist in this shade form. And
still babies. Still, we're just skirting around. They're babies. And that is our best games of 2021.
That's the thing. You're not meant to be the good guy. You are not the good guy in that game.
Well, no one's the good guy in a war, I suppose.
You just think what you're doing is right. And that's the other thing I didn't really touch upon is I loved how the last boss in the ending of the game is really much a fable of when you become so obsessed with something, like obsession. It will just lead you down this hole where it eats you up, and it makes you do terrible things, and then you literally start losing all the closest people to you around you. You lose everything from your fucking obsession with this one thing, and it's like, wow, it's beautiful. I love it. I never, because you don't get that feeling when you beat a game like, I saved the world. Ooh.
I saved the world. This one just ends on sad. Pharrell Ripper. That's your dude of the week on an episode that ranges from Dutch ruddering yourself to a poignant game about killing babies.
It's only one part, but it's there. And you can't avoid it either.
You just you killed it. And as always, our producers, I'm sure, don't mind being attached to a wide ranging from sick and narcissistic to downright depressing.
But you know what won't be depressed? Your balls.
That's true.
If you keep them fresh and trimmed.
Yeah, I wonder if Manscaped is going to be happy about
Manscaped, put an Emil face right above your happy trail. Let everyone know how you. Yee.
As always, we've got some patrons to thank. If you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Our producers for this episode are The Arnett, Screwnami, Top 35, Hyperviper 89, Hockey Kong 64, Ziggy Z, Online Persona, and Miles XVS. Thank you, dudes, and we will catch you next time.
Later, dudes.